Hello and welcome everyone to the Creators Talks entitled Let's Get Political, Fair Remuneration and for Songwriters and Audiovisual Composers. I'm Alicja Świerczek. I'm the EU Affairs and Program Manager at ECSA, the European Composer and Songwriter Alliance. ECSA is a professional alliance of composer and songwriter associations. We're the European umbrella organization of these associations, and we advocate for the interests of composers and songwriters in front of the EU policymakers. We're here today with our German members, defcon, Composers Club and VERSO, to kind of talk about the political and structural processes that lie behind the income of composers and songwriters. And we want to raise awareness about these issues and show that political activism is something that composers and songwriters can do and that can actually bring about positive changes in the music value chain. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Mickey Moiser. He is a film composer, songwriter, and producer. He wrote music for international movies with Daniel Craig, Kirsten Dunst, and many TV scores for ZDF and ARD. He also composed for several TV series in Germany and the US. And as a producer and songwriter, he worked together with Die Ärzte, Ina Deta, Silly, and many other artists. Mickey is politically engaged as a chair of the German Film Composers Union, defcon, and he's on the board of the German Composers Association, DKV, and additionally he's board member of the GEMA Supervisory Board. So thank you, Mickey, for joining us. Could you maybe talk a little bit about defcon and the work that you're doing there?
Well, yes, thank you for introducing Alicia. defcon is the association of professionally working screen composers, film composers in Germany. We see ourselves as part of the film industry. You know, you could have like theater composers and advertising composers, but defcon is merely a screen composers guild or association. And we are, the reason why we are in the film, we see ourselves in the film business is that we are talking to film producers and TV stations and about our fair remuneration, about the money we're getting, the fees. And the second task that we see is that we defend our authors' rights and copyright, strengthening the collecting societies, which would be in Germany, GEMA.
Thank you so much. And now I would like to introduce Tina Pepper, who's a member of defcon. Tina Pepper is an award-winning television and film composer based in Berlin. Amongst others, she has written music for award-winning films like Combat Girl from David Tennant and Teardrop from Damien John Harper. And she wrote for independent features such as Away You Go from Philipp Eichholz and for the Amazon Originals TV, Amazon Original series You Are Wanted by Matthias Schweighöfer. In 2020, she was awarded the German Television Award for Best Music for her score for the TV series Rampensau. Welcome, Tina. And I wanted to start the question with why have you become a member of defcon?
Hello. Well, I've become a member of defcon because at some point in my career, I realized that I have a lot of questions and I was searching for somebody who could help me answering these questions. So I became a member of defcon and found a lot of colleagues that were really, really helpful in sort of getting me started with all the business side of the job.
Okay, thank you. Let's move the introduction round to John Groves. Welcome, John. John is a British composer living in Hamburg. He's specializing in sound and music for communication, which is advertising, sound branding, jingles, radio and TV idents. His current focus is on the mental health care app Sonic Tonic, but also he's a member of the scientific advisory board at the Center of Applied Music Research at Danube University Krems. And he's also guest lecturer at The Hague University, Basel University of Art and Design, Brunel University London, and more. He is the president of the Composers Club in Germany and board member of ECSA, our association. Welcome, John. Let me start off by asking why you co-founded the Composers Club.
Well, first of all, thank you for that wonderful biography. I'm so impressed myself. I wonder who wrote that. The shorter version is I'm a jingle writer, so for advertising. So the Composers Club was started basically from advertising composers who had their problems, and they found themselves people that were thinking the same and having the same problems, but it gradually expanded to embrace all composers that really work for money, the ones that get assignments. And that is, as it is today, we are 300 members. And at that time, there was the DKV, which was the German Composers Alliance. And we broke away from them because we wanted to be more specified on the work of getting how to put it, assignments. Then we've been at that position until today. And so that was beginning our work in Europe.
Thank you so much. And now I would like to introduce Alex Freund. He's a successful German songwriter, having sold millions of physical albums and singles with his partners and artists. He wrote and produced with artists like Silbermond, Australian Running Touch, or Canadian Johnny Reid. His works got also used for movies. The latest one is King of Staten Island, in advertisements like the BMW or Volkswagen commercial, and in TV and streaming shows. And right now he's side coach at The Voice. And on the label side, he worked as an external A&R, closely with Universal Music. And on the publishing side, he worked with BMG. And together they've signed and supported young writers for years now. As vice president of VERSO, the German Songwriter Alliance, under the roof of DKV, he's supporting the dynamic of the much needed educational process, the political discussion, and also the direct exchange with the business side, and in terms of the interests and needs of the songwriters. Welcome, Alexander. So I would like to ask you about VERSO's work and what have you been doing so far?
Yeah, VERSO was founded not too long ago, and the idea behind it was that we just realized we need a specific force to stand in for the rights of the songwriters, especially dealing with the problems of the digitalization right now, because lots of things changed and there are a few very specific needs. Just for example, lots of songs get written for the companies or the management or the artists without payment for the writers, especially when the song isn't used finally or in a completely changed way or in another idea, or it takes a long time. And with the digitalization, there's one more focus on that, on these issues. How can we make the work that we do bring to a point that it is a real job and that there's a future in there, and that talented young people could say, okay, I can imagine that this job is something that I could do, I could dream of, and I want to stand in for that, and I want to be a songwriter, and this is what we try to support and to help out and to explain to our partners what are the needs, so that we still have that talent in our business that we had the last years, still in a few years, and we still have the chance to work together, and we're not only divided in groups having the one and only goal, making money.
Thank you so much, Alex. And now I would like to introduce Michelle Leonard. She's a German-British singer and songwriter based in Berlin. She's an award-winning author and co-author who wrote for many German and international acts. She's very well known for her work with the artists such as Robin Schulz, Aurora, and Alice Merton. And she's also board member of VERSO, as well as newly elected board member of GEMA. Welcome, Michelle. If you could tell us why you joined VERSO.
Well, I think it's because many of us, we are always battling our own little battles. And there comes a point where, you know, the kettle's about to boil over, and that point has been touched and reached so many times in our careers. I think collectively we can say that. I think everybody who's in this business would love to just scream sometimes and go, what are they doing? You know, what's going on? So basically we're dealing with massive tech giants, you know, we're dealing with lobbyism, we're dealing with so many developments, and these developments are getting faster and faster and faster and faster. And so basically it's really important that we, you know, not just one little voice, but we start becoming an army. And the stronger we get, the more we get heard, you know. So basically, we're all dealing with our little problems every day. But the thing is that once we have many people who are dealing with the same problems every day, we have a real voice. And I think that is the most important part of unionizing, or, you know, getting together and raising our voices so that even the big tech giants will hear us one day, loud and clear.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I would like to maybe get back to Tina and ask her, well, you've been composing for film and TV for some time now, and I'd like to ask you about the challenges you see that happened during the year. So basically that the challenges that you see these days in actually writing and composing for film or TV or streaming services.
Yeah, well, right now, there are certain things that we have to sort of fight against right now. And one of them, I would say, is the coercive publishing, which is where you get asked to write film music for a project, and together with this project, there comes a publishing deal. And you often have no chance to say no, otherwise you cannot do the project. So, actually, this coercive publishing is a chance for the production companies to sort of recuperate the money they put into it. And basically they do it by taking away a part of your royalties. And at the same time, when it comes to royalties, the production companies often argue that, oh, you get all these royalties, so we don't see a reason why we should pay a higher fee. So during the past years, the fees got lower and lower because they say, oh, you get all this royalty money. And then connected to that, when it comes to video on demand, we have the situation that in video on demand, the royalties are marginal compared to television. So we have to ask for higher fees, but the production companies are sort of used to paying lower fees. So it's kind of hard to negotiate with them to pay a fair amount of money there. And this shift from television to video on demand is sort of a very, very open area right now, because everybody is sort of negotiating right now. The GEMA is negotiating new tariffs there, and they're having a hard time dealing with all these huge companies like Amazon and Netflix to sort of get equitable royalty rates there. And the production companies, they sort of cannot recuperate any money from publishing there. So they sort of have to pay higher amounts of money. And even though with the projects from Amazon and Netflix, we have higher budgets, that doesn't necessarily mean that the money sort of ends in our pockets. It's sort of go somewhere else sometimes. So I think these are basically the challenges we are facing now, that the things are changing in a way, and we have to sort of stay on top of it to sort of make sure that we will still be able to make a living out of writing film music in the future.
Thank you so much. Mickey, what do you say? What can defcon do, or what has defcon done to ameliorate the situation, to improve the conditions for composers, audiovisual composers?
Tina mentioned 3 areas where we definitely have problems. Let me start with the last one, which would be the shift into digital and video on demand, as opposed to TV broadcasting. What we see is that the royalties that come from the Netflixes and Amazons are about not only a couple of percent less, they are about less than 10% that we get from TV stations. So we have a serious problem here with the use of our works and the use of the films. We're not the only ones. We know screenwriters and directors have the same problem. In defcon, we addressed this, telling our members if they pay royalties like that, you'll have to ask more money upfront as a fee when you start working, when you start writing. And to our surprise, they accepted that. We have a couple of examples where the screen composers asked for 3 times the money that would be the money for a TV station, and they got it. So there seems to be money there, but the digital world doesn't like to pay royalties. And this is something we know very well. The second thing, I think Tina mentioned coercive publishing. This is an on and off thing. We are talking to producers and to TV station and even the state TV station, ZDF and ARD in Germany, are doing coercive publishing. They say, if you want to do the job, you have to give us your publishing. And we are really thankful because the Composers Club before defcon was there already won 1 trial against the ZDF and they had to stop it. But they're doing it anyway in a very tricky way behind with different companies there where they lead the money through. So we are talking to them, they know it's illegal, nevertheless they do it because they have the power and they can do it. We saw we can't stop it, even though, I mean, you can't make it even more illegal. It is illegal already. So we try to water it down. We try to talk to them, pay some advances for it, for the publishing, which worked, and sometimes they do it. And we try to tell them, do splits. We have our own publishing companies, and then we can do a 50-50 split, or even better for us, for the authors. And this is something we achieved like 2 or 3 years ago. We were in a very good situation in that. But now we see, under the pressure of the European directive and other political things coming in, that the producers are hitting back, striking back. And we just saw the other day a contract where the coercive publishing was again in the same contract that was the contract for the job, which is completely illegal. We can destroy this producer. The problem is, if you do that, you'll never do any, if a single composer wants to do that, you'll never do any film music, write any film music in your career anymore. So this is a problem.
Thank you, Mickey. I would like to turn to John and ask, is the situation for jingle writers, for ad music writers, more or less the same? What challenges do you see, and what has the Composers Club suggested to change, or what have they tried to change? I'm sorry, you're muted, John.
Excuse me. There we go. Okay, well, the jingle right, I mean, that was just my history. Composers Club really is all kinds of composers who are doing assignments. But we have our problems too. As Mickey mentioned, we have been around rather a long while, and I personally was involved also in the UK, and things like the coercive publishing have been around for a long time, and it's a little bit disappointing to see that we haven't managed to get rid of that. But I'd like to point a little bit away from Germany to Europe, and I think this is where our membership in ECSA has been excellent, because thereby we have a vision now of being able to create the bargaining power with numbers, and this collectively seems to be working. You know, ECSA as a relatively small association has had incredible influence on recent copyright laws by, you know, sort of being the flea in the ear of the bigger ones and getting people together. So I see now with their excellent role on advocacy, especially with things like Article 17, when, where there's been total disinformation about upload filters and things. But we managed, with the help, of course, of our big brothers, to get this through. Now it's our job to get this accepted in each country. And in Germany, this is what we're doing at the moment. We're trying to extol the virtues of taking care of your artists, because if you ruin the art, then you're really going to have some problems. Your life won't be quite as nice at the end of it. So I would say that these days, although we see what could look like a fragmentation of the composers into different associations, we work together, as you can see by this this talk. What this means is that we are just creating platforms for specialized interests and specialized problems, but we all work together. We come together at the German level, and we come together at the European level. So I think that is really the answer to our problems.
Thank you so much, John. And I would like to ask Michelle to kind of like talk about the challenges for the songwriter community. And you already mentioned the digital sphere and the big tech companies. And if you would like to elaborate more on this.
Oh yeah, sure. So basically, streaming has now officially reached the point where we are now like over 50%. And like, for instance, the IFPI report stats from 2019 were quietly released this year, you know, and it's a bit of a bummer, sorry to say that, you know, if we've got COVID coming in, you know, and you know, people are struggling, we're all struggling, and, you know, the studios are empty, the live gigging is not there, you know, and then we kind of understand that the trends all combined have a 22.9% increase in streaming revenues, and that's the harsh reality. And the thing is, these tech companies, they're kind of, it's kind of a do it or die kind of philosophy, you know. I mean, at the beginning, I mean, I'm not quite sure, but Mickey, you can maybe help. At the beginning, I understand that many collection societies are very kind of, you know, get big and then we'll start getting into the deals, you know. So basically, they're very encouraging to make these companies work. But the problem is, once they work, they're not that encouraging to come back to us and say, thank you very much, let's sit down together, let's make a fair deal, you know. So it's a bit unfair on the moral side, and I'm a very kind of emotional person, so I hate unfairness, so I'm kind of just feeling sick all the time at the moment. And so we're dealing with these big tech companies, and I mean, we can see it with our colleagues in Denmark, what's going on, you know, and they're basically pulling the same thing off that they've been pulling off with everyone. So yeah, we've got a problem because we're dealing with tech giants, and our revenues are getting less and less and less and less. And even when it comes down to like numbers that come from Spotify, there's all these different bulks that Spotify have. So basically, it's very hard to find transparency in all of that. We've got a big problem with Google, of course. I mean, we know we've got a massive problem with YouTube, right? Then of course, we've got all these different take or leave kind of philosophies. So yeah, the same thing though with, as what Mickey said, is we're earning less. So of course we need to open up new doors. Alex is going to talk about the walk-in fees and explain that a little bit. There's so many little fires happening. And I think the most important thing is that, and I know a lot has been done, but we need to secure copyright and our rights, and it needs to be bulletproof so that we can take it into the future. So, you know, they can't play us around anymore, basically. I mean, that's basically what it's all about. It's got to be the heart of the whole foundation of the music, because it is, of the music industry. Everything starts with a song. That's when everything else develops from it. So let's just secure the base, please.
Okay. Yes, sure. I would vote for you, by the way, with that passion. So I guess with the same amount of passion and engagement, you're working at VERSO on these issues, right, Alex? Can you also talk about what VERSO is doing in addressing these challenges?
Yeah, sure. I mean, when we talk with the business or the companies, it's very often that we got told, well, the truth is there's more money in the business than for a long time, and we are very near to the highest amount of money in the business ever. But the truth is, it's not in the business, it's in these platforms, and the money is held by the license holders, the biggest ones, and the biggest ones are the ones who have the power to negotiate. And this is the problem that we have. When we are not standing together enough, we won't have a chance to stand in for what we need, because right now the deals the platforms have with the record companies and the big stockholder companies, they just take care of the needs of these big partners. And it's understandable from the platform side. These are the people they have to talk to, and they have to find solutions with them. But we have to bring up a situation that it's important for them to talk to us too. And there's and in fact, as a society, we know how that works. We are democratic. So we have to stand together and to understand what's going on and make decisions and tell them how we want it. And that's, in a way, this is a problem. We have to make rules and ask them to follow them. And we have to educate our people to know what to stand in for. And so we have these three sides of it in the end. We have to talk to the business and make it understandable for them. We have to get into contact with politics, because the idea of copyright, this is a general thing. It's not only the need of us as writers. We are just the first ones dealing with it that much. The other industries will face the same problems on the digital side too. And I think there's a big chance for us to get in contact with other groups and other industries and explain them, this is what happens. And this is how the value of your work could be lost. And I think we've got a big chance there, but we only have it when we educate the people. And one thing we must never forget is, the musicians, they are interested in making music. They aren't that much interested in making politics. And this is a strength that we have. We are creative people, and we are experienced. And this is how we could help following up people. And this is what I wish from something like today. I hope that young writers get the belief in that the work that they could do has a value, and that they could stand in for that. And just one example, we came up with, and in a bit it fits to what Mickey already said, we created a walk-in fee. You could find that on verso.online. And the walk-in fee just should give people who ask themselves, what could I ask for now? An impression what that could be. And it's extremely important to know these fees shouldn't be understood as the final payment for the work. It's the payment for getting the people spending their time on the work. Please have a look at this to get more in detail. It would take too much time, but that as a last thing, this is only a short-term solution. And we see a lot of short-term solutions right now because things are moving that fast. Like Nikki already said, we could ask for money here and there. And we need to believe that we could get that money so that we could ask for it. But on the long term, we need solutions that are just safe and give us the feeling that what we do makes sense on the cultural way and also on making a living. And yeah, have a look at the walk-in fee. It explains itself pretty well. Yeah, and please don't let loose the belief in that creative work has a value. We just have to explain it better.
Great, thank you so much. With these last words, we already have to close this panel. It was short and sweet. And thank you so much for joining. And I hope we can make a change together. Thank you.